Welcome to episode 400, John D Rockefeller, Richest Selfmade Billionaire in History. This is an outline of episode 400. There are 3 reasons we study John D Rockefeller. First, he was the richest man on earth. In today's term, 2018, he will be worth about $300 billion, 3 times richer than Jeff Bezos. Second, he created the world's first trillion-dollar company, Standard Oil. Third, he founded 2 world-class universities, University of Chicago and Rockefeller University, responsible for more than 100 Nobel laureates. Let us meet John D. Rockefeller.
At Bocatico Hills, Mr. Rockefeller made his last newsreel talk.
Let us, with faith in God, in ourselves, and in humanity, go forward, courageously resolved to play our part worthily in building a better world.
John D. Rockefeller was born in Richford, New York in 1839. His father is a crook and a polygamist.
He was the eldest son of a traveling merchant who identified himself as a botanic physician, but in reality was selling the 19th century equivalent of homeopathic medicine. He would spend weeks away from home and in fact would have several children with another woman, who he decided to bring back home to his wife so they could all live together. In this very confusing household, John would grow up learning how to hustle people for the best deal possible and how to get the most out of every penny he got.
He made his first fortune at the age of 18, trading commodities,
where he got the chance to attend a proper school. But less than a year later, John dropped out in order to work as a bookkeeper at the local produce broker. Thanks to his good reputation, he got a loan of $4,000, which at the time was a huge sum. John started trading hay, grain, and various meats, and in his first year, he recorded sales of half.
In Cleveland, this was Mr. Rockefeller's first place of business, where he began his rise to fame and fortune.
Then came the big opportunity, black gold or oil.
The first American oil well had been discovered. This marked the beginning of the Pennsylvania oil rush, and within a year, 4,500 barrels of oil would be produced. Now, back then oil wasn't quite as valuable as it is today. Gasoline cars hadn't been invented yet, but oil could still be processed into kerosene, which people would then use in lamps. John realized, however, that the biggest profits to be had weren't in drilling for oil, but in refining it. He witnessed many people going bust before striking oil, so he knew that the business was too risky for him. Instead, he'd let others go through the hassle of finding the oil, and he would just buy it off of them. John had to wait until 1863 for the government to build a rail line connecting the Pennsylvania oil fields to Cleveland. But when that line was built, John was ready for it, with a long line of partners and banks ready to back him up.
Up to this point, whale oil was the primary source of lighting the lamp, and hunting whale was the primary source of American wealth, as depicted in the famous American novel Moby Dick.
He also assembled a team of seasoned chemists and engineers, who not only optimized the refining process, but also discovered various uses for the byproducts of refining petroleum. You see, the early refineries in Cleveland could only operate at about a 60% efficiency, but John not only increased that percentage, he also started selling all the byproducts, like paraffin wax, tar, and naphtha. Within 2 years, the Rockefeller refinery was worth over $70,000 and was among the largest in Cleveland. But John wasn't done. In 1865, there were 26 competing refineries, but within 5 years, John had acquired all but 4 of them. By this point, his business was getting too big to handle as a partnership, so in 1870 he incorporated as Standard Oil of Ohio. To convince the few remaining competitors in Cleveland, John would simply invite them over and show them his books, revealing that he could operate at a loss far longer than they could stay solvent.
In 1870, he co-founded Standard Oil. Rockefeller was 31.
US, and was refining over 90% of the entire country's oil production. At this point, John was so powerful that he could invite the owners of the big rail companies and personally negotiate rebates for using their trains. But this practice of negotiating backroom deals really got the business world riled up. Industrialists got worried that John's abuse of transportation rebates could result in similar monopolization in their industries. Over the next decade, businessmen, politicians, and the media would attack Standard Oil with increasing ferocity.
In 1890, the U.S. government passed the Sherman Anti-Trust Law to combat monopolistic behavior. In 1897, at the age of 58, he retired from running Standard Oil and began part 2 of his life, which is philanthropy. His philanthropic efforts also second to none. Rockefeller founded 2 world-class universities, the University of Chicago and the Rockefeller University. Together, these 2 universities produced more than 100 Nobel Prize laureates.
One of his favorite customs was donating dimes to encourage thrift.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and leave your questions and comments below. My next video will be John D Rockefeller, 10 Lessons. Wishing everyone peace and prosperity.